All right. Well, welcome all to our worship lab this morning on, gosh, it's the 14th of September already. How did that already happen? I'm glad you all are here. If you are new with us for the first time, I basically run through the service that our congregation does on Sundays, just to give you a sense of kind of the transitions and things that happen. Hopefully to spark other things, and then we ask folks at the end to, if you have any thoughts, questions, whatever, to kind of share expertise in the chat room or with each other. If and when you share, would encourage you to please introduce your name. If you want to share pronouns and kind of where you are in ministry, that would be awesome. So I'm Bruce, and pastor at First Presbyterian. Have just returned from a summer vacation from Facebook and catching up on everything. So still getting up to speed, getting back into the rhythm of all of this stuff, but glad you all are here. So what you're seeing now, just to give you a background again, is that we gather our leadership team at about 9:30 every Sunday morning. And this Sunday was our homecoming Sunday, so we had 4 extras, preachers and speakers and things. So we walk through everything, we sound check things, we pray at about 9:45, and then we take a little bit of a break beforehand, and then at 9:55 we open our doors. Our organist or musician plays for about 7 or 8 minutes just after the 10 o'clock hour. And then I will go ahead and begin. So this is the slide that's up when people are first let into the weight room, or from the weight room. Until then, we have a tech deacon who's communicating with people in the waiting room, just kind of saying, "Hey, welcome, change your names," that kind of thing. So all right, then we go. I do welcome and announcements. Our service is geared towards people from all over, so we really try not to geographically center our space. Just to kind of welcome people into it. We have 2 or 3 people who are now worshiping with us pretty regularly from other countries, and it's been an interesting dynamic as one of us even started showing up at for committee meetings and things. So where we do a little bit of kind of how do we want people to stay connected with us. I try to I zip through these pretty quickly, but get to leave them on the screen for folks who are interested. These also get put into our chat room so that folks can click on them if they want during the service. We do announcements, things that we've been kind of doing. I do a little bit of what's coming up, things. And then we have some volunteer asks. We talk about our coffee hour. And then I always do a Zoom reminder sheet where just to talk about how people should kind of assume how they're going to use Zoom. Not everybody is always using this. We've had some people talk about this is repetitive. And I'm like, well, we're always gearing towards new people, so we just try to do this pretty quickly. And then I just walk through the service pretty quickly. It doesn't change. We don't do a bulletin. This is just to give folks kind of a mental roadmap. And I pretty much kind of cue people all the way through the service itself. Then I bring a centering chime. We can do complete silence for a couple of minutes. Opening prayer happens. There's a hymn that's sung. We sing now about 2 verses only for all of our services, or for our hymns, just because it feels longer when you go longer than that. So we do that. We do our confession, and this is obviously it's just the two of us, a liturgist and myself, leading confession, and then our assurance of pardon. Then we do passing of the peace, which we switch to gallery view and allow people to see each other, say hello, scroll through. I basically warn everybody this is just a constant kind of cacophony of voices, and then we let that go on for about a minute, and then I mute them back and then return back for our scripture reading, which then happens here. And then this particular Sunday, we had homecoming, so we had different people come and speak, previous pastor types come and speak, which was for this congregation a kind of a healing moment. There's been a lot of conflict in the past, and just bringing some voices back from the past was, I think, helpful for people. So I introduced the people. People didn't know these folks were coming in, so it was kind of a surprise for folks, which was kind of nice. And then, so here was one from...
Hello, this is Victor Floyd.
And Lou Grosso.
Previous
I was the music director
All right, so we'll move
at
on.
First Press Palo Alto back in the early 2000s.
All right, so we did that, and then I went back and we highlighted each of our preachers that came in. We had 3 other preachers that came in. We come back and do a hymn. If you're Presbyterian and you haven't sung this hymn, this is an amazing one. So then we do our online giving kind of pitch. Usually we have a guest come in, but this time we debuted a choir thing that we did. We did one of those Brady Bunch things. I'll just show a little bit of it.
We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. God is with us. We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. God is with us. We are not alone.
And then I did an applause video. And then I talk about what we do with our prayers of the people. And then I go back to the screen. I stop sharing from there. All right. There we go. We went through all of that. And this time we did a little bit of something a little bit creative. If you notice flipping around in your screen, you should notice flipping around in your screen are the video things. Are folks seeing how people are moving around on their screen? Yeah. So like, for instance, if I do this, if you're in gallery view, you just saw my succulent move. Yeah. Okay. So some of you are seeing it, some of you are not. So if you're not seeing it move, then you probably haven't updated your Zoom yet. So you need to get your Zoom updated, because what we did and what we're going to be doing now is I have a second screen right here. I lit a candle, and then I put the candle in the top left-hand screen the whole time. This is a new feature that you can do now with Zoom. So you can have your chancel. I called it the chancel cam, and I put it in the left corner. I rang the chime there, lit a candle. Today you get this kind of sad-looking succulent that we were trying to save. Yeah, so you can, now what happens is on the right-hand upper corner, you'll have an option, if you're hosting, to make people follow host video order, which means that you can set your video screen, and then everybody else who has been updated will see that. So right, so for those of you that have your updated pieces, you can see if I'm moving my succulent around the screen, and you can see it. So what I did is I just set the screen early on with our 4 preachers, so people could see these people they hadn't seen in a long time. But I mainly put the succulent screen up, or not the succulent screen, that save screen up in the corner. Today I'm doing a memorial service at 1 o'clock, and we'll have a candle and a picture of the person that will sit in that top left-hand corner for everyone. So that is one of the new features that I would encourage you to try to figure out how to use. So I just did, and there's 2 ways you can do it. I have on one side, this is a second laptop that I usually use, or you can do it and just use your phone, which I did on Sunday. The key is you have to be logged into different accounts. So make sure that you're not logged into the same account as the host account. So I log in, I have a personal account where I do all this, and then I logged in my laptop for my second screen. I always do that on a second church account. And then I logged in on my phone on one more account. And those don't have to be paid, those can be anything. But then if you just log in with your phone and you just have that camera on, whatever you're gonna do, you don't have to worry about it again. Just make sure the sound's off, but the video is on, so you'll get that piece up in the corner all the time. Cool. All right, so let's do questions. If you have any questions, we can go ahead and do that. And I'm seeing a hand raised but I'm not seeing, let's see.
My name went away.
There you
Sorry.
go for it. There you go. Go ahead, Sally. Go ahead and say where you are and answer your question.
So I'm Sally Newhall from Nashua Presbyterian Church in Nashua, New Hampshire. And the thing you were just talking about, being able to lock a screen in one place, do I have to set that up in the systems setup, or do I just do it?
Nope.
I can just do it on the Zoom screen.
Yeah, as soon as you upgraded your Zoom, it now is an option. So I would test it out. I would go ahead, if you need at least 3 computers on. So if you want to test it out with 2 of your devices, 2 more of your devices on different counts or on someone else's. So that's what I did, is I just tested it out and I just watched the screen as I was moving things around. So no, it is one of the new features. So it'll be up in your view side when you're hosting. So just look for it, and now you'll have 5 options basically: speaker view, gallery view, follow host video order, release video order. So if I decide I don't want it anymore, I can go ahead and take that off, and then full screen or exit full screen. So yeah, so that's it'll be a natural thing when you start hosting. You can go ahead and determine the order of people's screens.
So I have a second question.
Okay, go for it. Yep.
Zoom
go for it.
started spotlighting me for people within the worship service without our asking it to. Is anybody else having that problem?
Well, you were probably on speaker view. Yeah, you probably just accidentally kept yourself on. Well, so I'll back it up. If they're on speaker view, that's what's going to happen. So they need to be on gallery view. Otherwise, because they can, the viewer gets to decide what we use. So if they're on, if
the little banner comes up on my screen while I'm talking saying I've now been spotlighted.
Oh, okay. Then somebody did that. Do you have co-hosts?
I do, but we actually did a training on Saturday where we talked about the problem, and while we were talking about it, and they were all saying they hadn't done it, it did it by itself.
Oh, that's weird.
Only one having that problem. Okay.
Anybody else have that problem? And then I'm going to go to some hand raises. Anybody? You have a ghost of some Zoom gremlins that are messing with you. Well, if it happens more than once, I would go ahead and contact Zoom and see if anybody else has had that experience. We have not had that experience yet. So great, thank you, Sally. Okay, Robin, go for it.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I know that there isn't a specific Zoom offering on this subject, but I'm wondering if anyone has found a workaround for a split view with 2 people up. Usually split view can only be used with a share screen and a person. But, you know, if we're having 2 people do communion, one doing the bread, one doing the wine, it would be great if we could have them both up as they alternate prayers.
Right. So let me play with that for a minute for you here.
Bruce,
there you go.
Suddenly I got told that I was spotlighted and
right.
I got pushed.
So now the rest of you can actually see 2 people spotlighted, Jeff and Brenda. Sorry, I didn't ask you ahead of time, but now, so everybody else sees 2 screens that are only spotlighted. So you can now spotlight more than one person at the same time, which is a great new upgrade feature that Zoom has created. So if you wanted to do communion with just 2 people on the screen, you just simply spotlight them both. And then you can, you'll see them both at the same time. So hopefully everybody sees 2 spotlighted screens.
I think it's only if you've upgraded, because
probably only if you've upgraded. Yes. So make sure you upgrade. So if you have upgraded, you see two screens. And let's say you also want to, let's see, I think we can do, let me play with this for just a minute here. All right. All right, so we're going to add Brenda, right? So there's a 3rd person if you wanted to go ahead and so there's lots of kinds of things. So now you have 3 that and this will take over your screens. Now, what often happens, unfortunately, is when I remove these spotlights, right? So I'm removing the spotlights now. what happens is Zoom defaults back to speaker view, and that's kind of a pain. I wish it would. So you have to hit, so you'll hear me often say, please go back to gallery view, because it leaves you in speaker view after you take spotlights. And you've probably seen that already, but that is something to make sure you do. So upgrade, and then you can choose your spotlights, and then you remove the spotlights, but just make sure people go back to gallery view if you want them to see everyone again. Otherwise, it's going to stay on speaker view for them.
Fabulous.
Now, Bruce, if you do a spotlight and then you want to just the normal way spotlight to another person, at least initially I found is you have to unspotlight that previous person first.
Yes.
Just kind of cumbersome.
Correct. So you either can, because so now that you can do 9, what they're trying to do is to not automatic. Before it would just take the place. Right now that you can add, they're just assuming you want to add. There would be a great one if it said replace current spotlight or something. But yes, that is good, right? Thank you. All right, Claire, go for it.
Too many buttons to push. Claire Butler, I serve a small church in West Virginia, just outside of Charleston. And I'm asking the question on behalf of a friend who couldn't be on the call, but I'm also curious myself. All of her Zoom accounts are connected to her personal email, but she is soon going to be in a situation where she needs to switch things over to the church's email, and is unsure how to do that. Does anybody know, or can anybody help?
So does she want to keep, so we're thinking about how this happens for our personal folks, but does she want to keep stuff on her personal one?
No, she is moving to another church.
Okay. Yeah.
And needs to switch everything over to the church's main account.
Right.
So that the church can take it over when she leaves.
So does the church already have a main account?
I don't know.
Okay.
The easiest thing may be for them to just start a brand new account under the church's email.
Well, it depends on if all of the meetings have been on her account. So the only
I believe so.
Yeah. So the only reason you want to save that information is if there's any like if any of the links are going to continue to be used, or if there's anything that she wants to make sure are like if there are links that are repetitive and people have them, and so she needs to save those somehow. I would say then that account she just has to hand over to the church and change all the information to the church email and all that,
right,
and start a new personal account. If there's nothing that matters about whether you save any of that information, then the church should just go ahead and start a new account. There really isn't a lot, unless it's the recordings, but most of us are deleting our recordings because you don't want to pay for the
right
stuff, all that. So the only reason would be reoccurring meetings that they don't want to lose. Otherwise, I would say just have the church just start a new account.
Okay, thank you.
Cool, welcome. All right. Other questions, thoughts as folks are going through all these things? Go ahead and use the blue raise hand or flail about. I think we're still on one screen, so if there's anything, go for it, Karen.
Good morning. We had a unique situation this weekend. We had our first funeral in our building, and we're not officially open yet, but it was a rector who had been in service to us for 26 years, even after he retired. He was very, very active in the church and very well known in the city. So we made it known that we weren't welcoming everyone back. So it was family, and just a very few other people did show up. Everybody was really great about social distancing, but it was very different for us as a Zoom setup because we could no longer have our cameras. We usually use two cameras. One is exclusively for Facebook, and then one for Zoom and YouTube. And usually they're in the center aisle, and we couldn't do that. So for where we had them positioned, our sound was really lousy. And I'm concerned that we may have another situation where we have to do something similar. And any suggestions on what to do about that?
Yeah, I do have something. Karen, where are you serving?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Episcopal Church of the Atonement in Washington, D.C.
Ah, well, welcome. So your only way that you're going to be able to do sound well out of your sanctuary is to have it run through your sound system and the sound system into your computer. So unless it's just our sanctuaries are, unless you have really high end sound equipment and a soundboard and all of that, it will not sound good. So I would say that have folks figure out how they can plug directly in from the sound system directly into your Zoom feed. That's going to be the best way for you to get any sound that's going to be decent. That also then means that everybody has to be mic'd. So it comes into that. So, but if you set up any kind of microphone, for the most part, kind of in a wide angle, it's just not going to sound good on Zoom. Zoom picks up too much silence and pauses and all those kind of things.
Okay.
You could try to do original sound, but I just think it's not going to sound very good in general. So anybody have any thoughts on that? That's just been my experience so far, and as we're thinking about next steps. But has anybody played with any of that? All right, great, thank you. All right.
We
go for it, Josh.
I can add something. We played with that a little bit. I think if you're going to use the direct board, just remember whatever you do, you actually need 2 sound mixes. So you're good, because I'm assuming the soundboard you're using is both live, right? Meaning whoever's gathered there. But you can't just use that mix, or else it's going to come out different. I mean, especially if you have music and other elements, you want to make sure your board's capable of having a separate mix somehow. So I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, you need to have a sound person come in, and some musicians have already figured this out. They're using different mixer boxes to come in and plug in and all that. So I would look at folks who are doing really good. If you have folks in your community that are doing online concerts or music leading, that kind of thing, they probably have figured out how best to do that. Oh, you can see my arm next to my cycle.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. All right. All right. So let's see. Other questions, thoughts, things that are coming up for folks. So I got to play with the spotlight already. That's the coolest. That's one of the coolest things. And then moving the squares around. Go ahead, Ray. Do you have a question?
I have a question.
Yep.
And you've covered this sometimes in the past, though. You know, only one person is the host starts up the session. And I can't recall, do you also simultaneously do live stream to anything else while you're doing the service?
We do not. And that's a conscious choice for us. We're not streaming it out to anywhere else for lots of reasons. But yeah, we are choosing not to do any streaming.
Okay.
Did you have a question though? And then
what happens if the host goes down? I mean, it depends on who's the host. I know you do a lot of things as host, but in my church, I start as host, and then other people do things, and I get involved with the background stuff.
Right.
And I went down this Sunday.
Ah.
It was recording to cloud. I just left everything alone. I could see what was happening, but none of the controls in Zoom would work, and the recording came out okay. Someone else took over some of the background stuff. I'm just a member of the church. I wasn't doing the actual service itself, but we were lucky, and I know you all are prepared. If it goes down, it goes down. You just don't have the service.
So just your computer went down?
Yeah, my computer was up, but everything kind of froze in terms of the controls in Zoom. Huh. Although on the screen in the background, I could see the stuff going on.
So probably, and were you the host or were you a co-host?
Host.
Okay, so it just got handed off to somebody else, it didn't?
Okay, but no one else became host.
Oh,
Zoom
really?
still looked at me as host, but I couldn't do anything, which created a problem. I went on my iPad, but
I'm seeing a couple hands go up. Let's go to, I'm seeing some folks. Yeah. Marty, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Marty in Savannah, Georgia. So Sunday was really peculiar, right? So I'm in Savannah on the East Coast, and we do our sound check at 10 o'clock. Had everything loaded up, totally normal. My screen kept flashing, which was weird. And then all of a sudden, my hands were nowhere near my computer, and my PowerPoints started playing on their own. This was before we went to worship. So it was just like, I'm like, what is this? So paused, went back, reset, did it again. And I had no controls. Now, in addition to that, we had a 5-second lag on our internet at our church. And I think that was due to a storm last weekend. So we're working on getting that corrected. But my co-hosts were not made hosts. I would see people come into the waiting room and I couldn't get to them to admit them. My co-hosts were able to do it like this, but they did not make the host. But thankfully it stopped before 10:30 when our actual service started, and I did not have any more occurrences, but it was very peculiar. Sunday was like wicked crazy Zoom stuff.
All right. So maybe weird things are going on. Jeff, you had your hand up. Go for it.
Hi, Jeff Spencer, Fremont, California, Niles Discovery Church. I had an experience where my host computer, I was trying to do something on it while I started screen sharing on a co-host computer, and the host computer, I was not able to do anything. The controls sort of disappeared from the screen. When I stopped screen sharing on the co-host computer, everything returned. And so something that, I think that it was my host computer got confused because it was trying to do two things at once: start receiving the screen share and whatever else I was doing in a different program.
Now, Jeff, are you streaming as well?
No.
Okay, so there's not a comment. And Marty, are you all streaming to somewhere else? You are. Okay. Well, so that doesn't necessarily contribute. All right.
And the streaming was perfect. Everything that was recorded showed none of the crazy.
Okay. Well, that's
and it went to Facebook and it was fine.
That's good. All right, Katie, go for it.
Hi, I'm Katie Pate, Milwaukee, Oregon. So our Zoom kicked our music director out twice when he tried to share yesterday as the co-host. And I didn't know if it was a bandwidth issue because I'm semi-evacuated. I live in a zone that was like level 1 yesterday. So I'm like at a friend's house, but I'm the only one using the internet here. So I don't know if it was bandwidth or Zoom.
So I've seen that happen with people where folks just get randomly kicked off. I don't know what that is. But it was exactly when they started to share that they got kicked off.
Twice.
Anyone? Everybody's like, oh. You have commiseration is what we offer you for today.
Download your updates. Download the new updates.
Exactly.
Are you sharing this is Joanna from University Pres in Michigan. Are you sharing a Zoom account?
No. I mean, we each have our own login.
Yeah. So we sometimes, when one of us forgets to log in under ourselves, and we've done that, we've been one of us has been booted.
He's never, like, we're all in separate houses and he's never logged in. He doesn't have my info. So that's a good problem solve, but I don't think that's.
Yeah.
We have it here because we share one church account. Well, some people do.
Goodness
you don't ask, Bruce. So,
all right.
When one of us forgets to not log in as ourselves versus using the church account, we get booted.
He does use 2 machines though. So I wonder if that was part of it.
So if he forgot to log off on the one, it will log you on the last one that you were logged in on. Because I've regularly had to get out and then go back in and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
if anybody's ever using 2 screens, you'd need to log into 2 separate accounts. Otherwise, you just creates too many weird things going on.
That's great to know. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Kent, welcome. You have your hand up. Go ahead and introduce yourself and ask or comment.
Sure. Hi. Thanks, Bruce. Hello, everybody. I'm Kent Marcu from Transfiguration Parish, just outside Washington, D.C., Episcopal Church, and we've had great success with Zoom. Just to add to the experience that maybe others have had, but surprised me in a good way, when my computer shut down when I was the host, when I rebooted the computer, it actually restored everything without anybody else noticing. So that was just a an experience to share, because I thought for sure when the computer rebooted that I would have to relog on to the meeting, or wasn't sure what was happening behind the screen. But as somebody termed it, whatever crazy I was experiencing, nobody else was. So it was just a good reminder to just kind of be calm and see what the computer restores itself to before acting. And it actually worked out. In that case, it worked out just fine.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. The last thing you want to have people hear accidentally or see is panic. Uh, and I've done that. Oh, so I did the first time ever, which I think is pretty good, is forgot to unmute myself during one of the things that I was doing, leading worship this past Sunday. And so all the co-hosts are inviting me to unmute myself. And I was like, oh, well, it's bound to happen anyway. So just, that's one of the reasons why I always put on our slide that this will not be perfect. Just to keep reminding people, no matter how long we do this, it is not going to be perfect, and there's all going to be stuff that's going to go off. All right, other questions, thoughts that are going on with folks, so you want to lift up? Yeah, Joshua, go for it.
Josh, I'm in Houston, Texas. It's more of a question for those who are being logged off inadvertently. Are you all hardwired in, or are you using Wi-Fi?
That could be, if you, those of you that are getting logged off, go ahead and unmute yourself, and just, if you're doing, well, Josh, we'll talk about that a little bit and why that.
Yeah, just because, particularly if you're hosting a meeting and you want more assurance that you're going to stay logged on, it's always better just to hardwire versus relying on Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi can cut in and out. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. If you're not, if there's any way for you to just plug right into your laptop computer, even if you just need to buy a 50-foot cable, then you're only using when you're leading worship, it is totally worth doing. And the way you convince yourself is do a speed test without your being plugged in, and then speed test with yourself being plugged in, and you will immediately see the difference. So, so I'm not plugged in for this one, but I'm sitting right there. But normally I would plug in for anything that I'm hosting when I'm in my office. So, all right, thanks, Josh. All right, other questions, thoughts, things are going on that people want to lift up that for folks? I already got to play with two of the best features. So, go ahead, Robin, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I said before, Sausalito Presbyterian Church in Sausalito, California. Skies, you can actually see the sky today.
Oh, good. Maybe that's coming our way.
I noticed that you were singing in that virtual choir. Oh my God, Bruce, another skill.
Oh, I think that's very generous to say skill.
But I really would like to see your service. Is it possible to, but are people putting links to their service, and are you putting your link to your service on the Zoom Faith Facebook page?
I haven't been as much. We publish our entire service on YouTube, so you can always look for First Press.
Thank you.
Palo Alto, and so we have the whole thing on YouTube. So that music piece, our choir is not. I mean, you saw it. We're not this huge, massive kind of thing. But we have one person that she agreed to learn how to use the editing tool, and this is our second one. So the second one was much easier in walking people through how to do it. It's for some of us, it's less intimidating than walking into a choir rehearsal on Thursday night and seeing all these people. For others, it was really intimidating to record yourself singing. So I'm not a singer. I'm not a choir person. I haven't sung in a choir since I was probably in middle school. But I said, all right, I'll do it if other people will. And so we had about 4 new people. That was the only reason again, skill is very generous. So I assume that Karen, who edited it, there were many times where my volume got turned down, which is totally fine.
So quick question about music then and copywriting. We kind of jumped to using non-royalty free music and videos in the beginning of the lockdown, and now people are really loving it, and we're kind of struggling with the fact that there are copyright issues, and we can't put our, at the moment, our full service on YouTube. So I'm wondering if anyone has any licensing suggestions and how to, I don't want to do anything illegal, but, you know, broadening the opportunity to use YouTube videos in service.
Right. All right. Anybody want to comment on that around the copyright stuff? Our music person handles all of our copyright things, so I'm not as versed on that. But what have other people done now that a lot of the early copyright things in the early pandemic, they were allowing you to use it wherever and kind of broad, but now they're beginning to shift. But anybody, Josh just put something in the chat around some of that. So and there's other things popping up in there. But anybody want to share if they've run into trouble or if they've done anything that has created any trouble? Again, YouTube picks that stuff up and they'll tell you if there's been a copyright claim and whether it is will make it so that your video can't be shown or can be shown. So that's one way that YouTube picks up. Facebook apparently now is doing something, which I saw people flashing up, but since we don't Zoom, I mean, we don't stream, I don't know what that was about. But did anybody experience some Zoom stuff? Or not some Zooms, your Facebook things? I heard that Facebook has shifted.
I think that's going to take place October 1st.
Oh, okay.
There's some back and forth about it because churches are not really specified in that. They're trying to cut back on, I guess, folks that are putting their music out there to larger audiences, you know, artists.
Right. Yeah.
So how the church will figure into that and whether they'll just stop your live stream or not is unknown yet.
Good times.
From what I understand, it's if you are using like pre-recorded music. So like if you're playing a song, you know, off an album, then they may mute it. If it's just your organist playing or your choir singing, then that's going to be okay. But it's any kind of, you know, pre-recorded that they're going to have some issues with.
Right. All right. Well, I guess we'll all find out this Monday after October 1st, see how that all goes for people. But all right. Other questions, thoughts coming up from folks. I'm interested. Folks are not getting Zoom bombed, it appears, as of late. Has anybody had any experiences with that lately? Okay, that's great. I mean, I don't know what that means. It means, I guess, a lot of security things have begun to work. The other question I have for folks, as we're doing some things in our administrative space, anybody think have any of you been using other services besides Zoom? Have you started to use any other things for any of your meetings? Has anybody shifted over to Google Meet or any of the other ones for anything? I'm just curious to see what the experience has been. Jeff, do you want to share a little bit?
So we haven't actually done it, but we have the Office 365 suite for a lot of our stuff in the church. And so they have a program called Teams that we have used in standby. And actually tomorrow night, we have our first 2 different committees in the church wanting to meet at the same time. And I think what ended up happening is that one of them is meeting on a member's Zoom account.
Right.
And so they're staying on Zoom, but we've got Teams in standby, but it is a learning curve and people would rather use what they know than download a new program and, you know, learn how to use it, and et cetera.
I would agree. And we're not thinking about moving. Somebody asked if we would move our community. I'm like, no, we're not moving. But I know that some folks are dabbling in some other things. In our church, we're moving over to Google Suite. So it may phase into ours using Meet, at least for some things. So, all right, I was just curious. All right. Other things, other questions, thoughts coming up for people that you want to bring to the group? I will say, when I didn't do it on this time, we also figured out, I'm using rev.com for closed captioning. And so we began to try that. You can play with it and see how distracting it is or not. So rev.com is pretty good for doing transcripts, and I've used them in the past for transcribing interviews or those kind of things. Not too expensive. They have now a live Zoom closed captioning service that's $20 a month. there's a little bit of a lag depending on, what's going on, but it's pretty good in terms of accuracy. So if you are ever playing with it, and I'm not on the right account right now. We have it on our church account, so I'm not on our church account to be able to show you what it looks like. But we've been trying that in some of our meetings. I have not done it during for worship yet. So, but I've tried it for meetings to see how distracting it would be. And so we're going to run that for about a week just to see how people feel about it. And then we'll kind of see if it's worth bringing into worship or not. I mean, the fastest is always a live person, and you can hire them as well to do a live person. That just becomes ridiculously expensive. So, but anyway, that's an option to try. We're trying to get more captioning when we can. John, I see your hand raised. Go for it.
John, UU Fellowship, Durango, Colorado. How about any ideas of recording to the cloud versus recording locally? Pros and cons, one better than the other?
Sure, I can answer that real quick. So I like to record to the cloud because we have different people ripping different things. So I'm in charge of our YouTube channel. So I rip the video, and we have somebody else that does the church's podcast sermon thing. So he rips down the audio. So if you have multiple places where information needs to go in the cloud, and then our admin, so we promise to rip everything, and by Thursday she can delete those those recordings, so you're not building up things. So make sure that everything gets ripped and saved, and then you can delete them just fine. So that would be the reason to do it in the cloud. Now, if you're the only one working with everything, it's going to be faster when you try to do anything with it if you record it locally, but that's just a personal kind of thing. So I think safest is always just go to the cloud, and you're going to save it there. All right. Thank you, John. All right. Other questions, thoughts that folks want to lift up to the group? Y'all are great. All right. Well, okay. Well, I don't know if there's any, I'm always appreciative of not using full time. So if there's anything else, if I'm not seeing any hands raised or anything going on, anyway, feel free to contact me at all. If you have any questions at all, you can see our entire worship service will be posted on YouTube probably by the end of today, if you want to see that. I'll try to remember to post it in the Facebook group as well. It's interesting, since I took 2.5 months off of Facebook, I'm not as drawn to go back all the time. So it's a very interesting, like once you're weaned off, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I got to go back in and check. So I haven't been quite as tending to it as much as possible as I could, but no apologies. I'm just, All right. Thank you all very much. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I will post this later this week.
Thank you
all
so
right.
much, Bruce.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome all. All right. Take care. Bye.